Hi, Scott Orlin with CINEMA-Magazin. The new TV series is called Dirty John, and one of the stars of the show is with us here today, Connie Britton. Congratulations. I almost feel like the show should come with a warning sign. Going online can be detrimental to your health.
That's a good idea, actually. In seriousness, we have talked about that we would like to have the show linked with something that helps women who are dealing with any kind of like coercive control or assault issues. But you make a very valid point, and I support your point 100% because, man, that's a crazy world if you go into that online world.
Have you ever just explored it just for fun to see what the potentials are?
No, I have not. However, I have many friends who have, and they're always like, but Connie, look at this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, thank you. Yeah, no.
What's really fascinating about this is it originated from a podcast.
Yes.
Was it interesting or important for you to go back and listen to that to kind of get a temperament of where this character and story is?
Oh, very much. Well, I had first heard of the podcast. It was kind of a funny confluence of events because I had been with friends and they were all talking about it and they were obsessed with it. And oh my gosh, did you finish listening? And so I heard them talking about it, but of course I never listened to anything, so I had no idea what they were talking about. And then maybe 2 days later, this was sent to me by my agents as a possibility to jump on board. And I was super excited about it because I already knew that it was pulling people in. And so I immediately, I read the LA Times articles, which were great, and then immediately listened to the podcast as well. And then I was so pulled in by the story and so many different elements to the story too.
What's kind of fascinating watching this is we all think that we know ourselves and we trust our instinct. And yet when the whole world around us is telling us you're wrong, mm-hmm. you're not seeing the big picture, and yet we don't listen, that we're so driven by that need for love that we're willing to be blind.
Yeah, I think that's true. And for me in particular, what was exciting was really, I'm always interested in the characters that I play to be seeking some kind of empowerment within themselves. And, this for me was a real case study in what it is to be a woman in America today, and particularly of Deborah's generation. And it's a great story because we have 3 different generations from her family of women. So we can really study where she comes from and the specific influences that are so unique to this story that affect how she thinks of herself as a woman and who she thinks she's supposed to be to a man. And so that was what was most important to me about it, was just diving into why we make the choices that we do and what impacts that. And, yes, she wants love in her life, but there were other things that I think go deeper in terms of being a woman in the culture that I think kind of blinded her a little bit. So for me, that was a fun exploration.
Part of the mystery, so to speak, of this show is the manipulation and where it's going to go and how deep it will get. We all, again, think that we're pretty good and savvy at seeing the world around us. Have you ever, in hindsight, looked back and went, I was manipulated?
Thankfully, I have not had any kind of experience like that. I mean, I've had relationships that didn't work out well, but nothing like that. No, thankfully. But I definitely know people who have, and really people who were in full-on sociopathic, manipulative relationships, and it's scary, and it's also not anybody you ever think would. You can't just say, oh, well, that's because they weren't smart or they didn't, they're not savvy or whatever. It's like, no, it can happen to anyone, because if a person is a good con man, they watch you and they learn exactly what you want to hear, and they're flawless at it. So it can happen to anyone.
Just a last quick question for you. If looking back at your track record with TV, you've picked some pretty impressive shows. I mean, every single one has kind of been successful and kind of been part of the cultural zeitgeist, and so to speak. What is it about your choice method?
Wow, thank you for saying that. That is something that it feels important to me, because I just feel like I've had wonderful opportunities, but beyond that, whenever I make a choice about something that I'm doing, I want it to feel like I know for me, this is going to be a different voice than I've ever been able to put out into the world. And it's going to be challenging, and it's going to take me outside my comfort zone. And I think when you do that, it feels like then in the culture, it can also transcend in a way that maybe we haven't seen before. So that's always my goal. But my goal really also is to tell stories and to depict characters that feel relatable and feel like the audience can say, I recognize myself there, or I recognize something in the culture there that feels relevant and important. And whenever I have the opportunity to do that, I feel very grateful.
Connie Britton, thank you for sharing your stories with us today.
Thank you.
And this is Scott Orlin. Until next time.